What's going on, warriors? Diane Kazer here, and I've got one of my favorite friends in the world of women's health with me today, Stefani Ruper. What's going on, girlfriend?
Hi, not much. I'm super happy to be here. I've been very much like in my own website for a long time. Well, I've in blogging time, so I've maybe not that long, but it's really good to I love your community, so it's really good to be here.
You do?
I do. Well, mostly because I love you, and I assume that most of them are like you.
Yeah, that's true. Birds of a feather, right? So for you guys who are watching, you obviously know we're going to be talking a lot about women's health today, women's hormones and PCOS and all of the things that come along with it as far as symptoms and what brings it on. But you also may know that Stefani she's the co-creator. Actually, no, not co-creator. You're the co-radio show host with Noelle on that one radio show that you have, but that's not that wasn't started by you, was it?
So I had a podcast a few years ago that
that's right.
its own thing. And then Noelle Tarr, who writes at Coconuts and Kettlebells, and I started the Paleo Women podcast a few months ago, and we just have a blast. I love doing it so much, and it's growing. Like, we have reviews and an audience, and it's just it's so fun. I love it.
Yeah, I love doing radio, which is why I'm doing this TV thing again, the Wellness Warrior TV, because I had Wellness Warrior radio show before, and I just love it. You learn so much. You get to hook up with your community. They get to see that you're a real human being and that we have problems too, and we have boy problems, and we have goals, and then we have meltdowns, and then we have to deal with it. And so we're all just sisters together, and we all get to share and be unapologetically ourselves. Like, I think that's the term I learned from you.
It might be.
I think
it might be. I'm really big on unapologetic.
Yeah, I've said it like so much since then. So ladies, follow Stefani. She's got some really cool things going on. Number one, on her radio show, and then she's also got Paleo for Women, which is how I actually found her years ago in this very room when I was doing a search about intermittent fasting. We're not going to talk about intermittent fasting today because Stefani is one of she's probably got the most popular blog online about intermittent fasting and whether or not it's healthy for ladies. Because ladies, when you read things on the internet, I mean, you're going to hear different things on the internet. You're going to hear it on this side, you're going to hear it on this side. Then you're going to hear things from your doctor. You might hear different things from your nutritionist. If you have a naturopath, you might hear different things from your personal trainer, your family. You're going to be told you're crazy. You're going to be told you're amazing. So we're really in the midst of all of this information overload. What we're going to talk about today and what we want to impart upon you guys is that it's just about finding your flow, and it's about finding what's right for you, because what might be right for men, what you hear and what you see in studies, may not be really good for women. And so today we're going to talk about hormones, and we're going to talk about PCOS particularly. So Stefani, let's get started, because Stefani has struggled with PCOS her whole life. I may have too. I don't know. I was never diagnosed, but I had a lot of the symptoms. And so we'll talk about that. It's very common. In fact, 1 in 10 women have it, but about half of women from the research that I've done won't even find out that they have it until maybe it's too late and they've been suffering for a long time. So Stefani, can we just get down to the root of what exactly is PCOS? What do those acronyms stand for? What does it mean?
PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which means lots of cysts on your ovaries, right? And it's really common, and this is both a good thing and problematic, but a lot of the people who have PCOS have the same underlying problem causing it. Because the thing is you have these cysts growing, but there has to be a reason for it, right? Like, there has to be something causing it. What causes it is hormone imbalance. Most women have a roughly similar hormone imbalance, and they tend to get like the right kind of attention from doctors, but a lot of women have a different kind of hormone profile, and it's really hard for women to overcome PCOS because it's so unique to every woman, and the hormones can be thrown off by a lot of different things. And it's unfortunate that we talk about PCOS so simplistically sometimes. All the blogs are like, go low carb, and I'm like, that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, that might help a lot of people, but it probably won't cure you, and it's not going to help everybody.
Yeah, it's one part of this big web. And I always like to say and use the analogy that we've got this, we were born a speedboat, maybe we weren't, but we want to be a speedboat. Like we want to just go fast in life and keep up with the fast pace. And then we've got this big old anchor that, oops, we forgot to put the anchor in the boat, and we're trying to speed away, wasting a ton of gas. And then along this whole rope is all these barnacles, which are all the symptoms and potential diseases and conditions. And so oftentimes, I know what we're going to talk about today is that PCOS is not always rooted in the same thing. The anchor is not the same for each woman. So you can't just apply the same treatment to every single person. So that said, I think it's really interesting that we'll get into, and ladies, stay tuned, because we're going to talk about the 3 different types of baselines that could bring on PCOS for you, and then how Stefani has worked with thousands of women healing it. What are some of the symptoms that women are likely to experience when they might not even know they have PCOS or have already been diagnosed with PCOS?
Right. So there are a lot of things that are common, but again, because each woman's different, there are some nuances. Having PCOS is characterized by a male type hormone issue. By having male hormones elevated over female sex hormones. So this often results in a lot of male pattern type symptoms. Acne, like around the mouth and face right here. That's a really common symptom. A lot of women grow like facial hair. Some women start balding. Those are like male pattern symptoms. You also, this is one of the most important things. Most women develop irregular menstrual cycles or stop menstruating altogether. And that's a really big red flag. If your menstrual cycles are not regular, and if you maybe have other symptoms, then that's something that like definitely needs to be addressed. You need to check out like whether or not you have PCOS. It's definitely a big cause of it. And then a lot of other hormone problems will follow. A lot of women have difficulty losing weight. Some get mood disturbances, depression or acne. Pretty much anything hormonal related can result after PCOS, but the irregular cycles, the male pattern symptoms, being overweight or difficulty losing weight, and maybe even hypothyroid kind of symptoms, those are all very PCOS-y.
For lack of a better term, PCOS-y. I thought it was pretty funny. Right when you said male pattern baldness, a guy walked into my room. It's like, what's up? You the man, what's up? I got more testosterone than you because I got PCOS. What's going on? Actually, that happened to me in one of my lab results. I found that I had higher testosterone than my boyfriend at the time. And I went, problem or PCOS?
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because you got to a symptom that I forgot. A lot of people say that testosterone is the hormone that's important for your libido. And for guys, that's definitely true. But for women, hormones need to be in really good balance for libido. Testosterone is definitely not the only one. You need the other ones too. And so having a low sex drive is very common with PCOS, almost ubiquitous.
Yeah, it's crazy because these symptoms all sound so similar, to hypothyroidism, Hashimotos, which I've got my free ebook and downloads that you guys will see this, here soon by the time I put this video out. And they could be happening at the same time. Yeah, like co-conditions. You could have hypothyroidism and PCOS potentially at the same time.
Yeah, in fact, I would say it's probably pretty likely that if you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, you probably have at least a little bit of the PCOS-y type stuff, unless you're treating your Hashimoto's right. And that's because the thyroid hormone is what you need to get like energy to your cells and for your cells to work. And if you don't get thyroid hormone to your reproductive organs, then they don't really work as well. Eggs don't develop well. You get a little bit of cyst stuff going on. So it's quite common for hypothyroidism and PCOS to exist together.
Yeah, and painful sex too. I know a lot of women are struggling. They're like, I don't, first of all, I don't want to have sex. And then when I do have sex, it hurts so bad. I mean, that could be from cysts and the cyst activity in there too. Yeah.
That could be from cysts. That could be from dryness because your hormone levels are off. And so you're not like lubricating your whole cavity properly. There's a lot of different things that could be a part of that. Painful sex can be a part of it, but it's also like a whole other ball game.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of girlfriends and or guy friends who tell me that they're married and that they have sex with their wives like twice a year, or the women on the other side are saying, I don't have a sex drive. I don't want to have sex. It hurts. And so they just don't have sex. And I'm like, guys, don't you want some oxytocin? Doesn't everybody want some loving? It's like not normal to get married and just not have sex, and everybody just kind of leaves it as a dead issue, and then no one talks about it, and people sleep on couches, and it's just like, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's figure out what's going on so your hormones are balanced. Let's have some more sex.
You know, I really firmly believe, I've had a lot of health problems in my life. I really believe that all of the problems have a solution. And even, I mean, I don't even mean just for physical health, but really all of the things. You just have to be systematic and persistent about figuring out what the problem is, and then doing the thing that you need to solve the problem.
Absolutely. And that's when people say, oh, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough whatever. It's just what you're telling yourself is that it's not a big enough issue. It's not a high enough priority. And so you can make all the excuses that you want. And then, you know, that's if health doesn't come first, then the whole rest of your life, you're going to have some kind of crumbling underneath you because you don't have your full self there. So we talked a little bit about the top 3 things that cause it, or the few things that cause it. Did we go over the top 3, Stephanie?
No, yeah, we didn't. It would be helpful, I think, to sort of be systematic about that.
Right.
So I talk about PCOS in terms of types. Now, don't go to your doctor and be like, I'm type 2 PCOS, because no one else in the world does that. It's just me. But I think it's a smart system. I think it's important because, again, there's so many different things that cause PCOS. And women tend to fall within one type, although there's definite overlap between them. But the types are based on the things that are causing the PCOS. So type 1 is the most common one. Probably at least 2/3, maybe 3/4 of all women with PCOS have this. And it's these women are often overweight, though not always. And their primary problem is that they're insulin resistant. And insulin resistance causes testosterone levels to rise, which throws a wrench in the menstrual cycle and will cause all those symptoms. And the way to overcome that is to work on the insulin resistance problem, which you can do by losing weight, healing your gut. You know, you may want to try a lower carbohydrate diet, that sort of thing. You know, lowering inflammation, very important. Type 2 PCOS is what I had, and why I'm so adamant about including it and talking about PCOS. So PCOS is often talked about as a problem of having high testosterone, but the real problem is that testosterone is not balanced properly with female sex hormones.
Right.
So in type 2 PCOS, the problem isn't necessarily that testosterone goes up, but that estrogen and other female sex hormones go down. I mean, both can happen. It did for me, both happened. But this one is also characterized by low hormone levels. And women experience low hormone levels, especially across the board. Like if you get a test and all your hormones are like low, 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 then you know that you're type 2 PCOS. And these things happen when your body is too stressed out. And it can be too stressed out from either physical stress, which would be like over exercising, under eating, too low carb a diet, too low fat a diet, like something really restrictive, like rapid weight loss, low body fat percentage, anything that makes your body like kind of freak out and be like, I'm starving.
Not enough sleep probably is a huge one.
Yeah, sleep definitely, but right, sleep is a big one. But generally the types of stress that I'm looking at here are ones that tell the pituitary gland, I don't have enough energy. And the female body has developed these mechanisms over millions of years to prevent you from menstruating when you're in a stressful environment, when you're not getting enough food, because if you get pregnant and you don't have enough food, you're going to die.
And so too will the baby, potentially.
And so too will the baby. So you can't, so when your body thinks it's being starved, you know, you're dieting a lot, you're low calorie, you're low carb, it's going to shut down hormone production. And also, so the other kind of stress that affects this is mental stress, emotional stress. Lots of women suffer from this kind of stress, and it impacts their menstrual cycles immensely.
Yeah.
Like immensely. And primates too, like studies of, I talk about this study all the time, but I find it so fascinating. It's been shown that monkeys who like eat the same exact food at different places in the social hierarchy have totally different fertility rates and the ones that are really popular and at the top of the hierarchy are really fertile and they menstruate regularly. And the ones at the bottom menstruate irregularly and have a harder time conceiving.
And with the same diet?
With the same exact diet, because they're like unhappy, kind of stressed out, you know, people don't like them, you know, they're not having sex or whatever. It's people don't like them. Other monkeys don't like them. So mental stress is it's a really big deal. And a lot of women, a significant portion of women at some point in their life lose their menstrual cycle because they're stressed out.
Oh my gosh. Facebook and fertility.
Yeah.
Lack of feeling approved or liked or followed or commented on or whatever based on social acceptance. It's probably
probably a real thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I went through it. Like, oh, if I don't get enough likes, oh, what was me with my purpose in life? Like, silly female stuff. But
that's hilarious, by the way. I can say honestly that was never an issue for me.
Oh, it was totally an issue for me. I was like that popularity contest. I have issues with the high school, like, you know, I think it's important for every female to really go back and trace back to where their biggest, I guess, takedowns were in their lives, where they feel like they experienced the most emotional stress. Because like I got stuck in high school, like that was a lot of my emotional stress, and I got stuck there. So whenever I was feeling insecure in relationships or insecure wherever, I would go back. What part of my past is this? Where am I lodged? And a lot of it was like 16, 17. Did I get as many balloons for my birthday as that other girl? It was just stupid stuff like that. It really got to me. And so I'm like, is this? And then I talked to the little 16-year-old Diane. Oh gosh, it's okay, Diane. You didn't get as many likes as you hoped. It was silly.
You gotta do that. You have to talk to the part of you that was hurt in the past. You have to.
Yeah. Otherwise, that's like emotional trauma that, like you're saying, can affect PCOS and hormones and fertility. So you said fertility, and I'm getting a little off course here, but I think this is important because most people, when they get the diagnosis of PCOS, they're excited that they have been pigeoned into something. And then the next thing is what? I will never have children ever. What? I can't get pregnant. And so then they, you know, assuming, like you just said, that they're eating this bad diet, their hormones are flatlined, potentially the adrenal failure type of situation. And then they go spend tens of thousands of dollars trying to get artificially pregnant with intrauterine therapy. So what do you have to say about that part, Stefani?
I have to say that I definitely think doing it naturally is a huge time and huge money saver. Like, yeah. It's enormous, because you could get on drugs, but you're going to be paying for them all of the time, or be paying for more expensive health insurance. Or you could do IVF, which can cost tens of thousands of dollars. And in addition to, you know, being time and money, no matter how many things you throw at your body to make yourself like do the thing you want to do, you're still just putting a Band-Aid on your wound. Essentially, the wound is never going to heal unless you heal the underlying condition. And the way to do that is by changing your diet and your lifestyle, and like providing your body with the nutrients it needs to do the healing that it's perfectly capable of doing. You know, I think we tend to think of like when we get like ill or something, our bodies like break, and we're like, oh, it's broken, I need a doctor to fix it. But bodies are like, they're regenerative. That's what they're designed to do. And they can regenerate if only you will let them.
I love that, because it's that whole concept of force. Well, if I can't get what I want, I'm going to force something from the outside to make it happen, without looking in the mirror and actually questioning and taking accountability for what can I do to support myself. Not I'm broken. Woe is me, I'm a victim, but like, what can I do so that this reverses itself by just, you said it one time when we did another webinar, and you said, the 2 recipes for success are to give your body what it needs to heal, and to be patient, to love on yourself. And it's like so simple, but patience is a big piece of it, is that people will do a lot of these things. They start to try to heal and they give up so quickly. So patience is huge. And most people, when they get this diagnosis of PCOS, I know that they're like, I can't have a kid. And then they want it like right now. They want it even more. It's like this kind of I can't have, okay, now I want it right now, right now, right now. Heal me right now. Okay, well, give me $10,000 of treatments right now. Okay, second one, third one. So the patient's part is huge. And I think that also plays a part into the emotional side of it. So what are these women who are going in, including yourself, if someone goes in to see a doctor, speaking of going in to see a doctor and saying, fix me, what are they likely to hear? What is the doctor likely to tell them?
You know, we do a lot of like hating on doctors from the alternative health scene. Yeah. Right. We talk about it all the time. We're like, and we write books about it. Like people sell books saying your doctor won't tell you what your doctor doesn't know, what your doctor, you know, all of this different stuff. So I'm very aware of that and I don't want to do it. On the other hand, I think it's right. I do. Not all of the time, but you know, and I have a doctor who's really great and he's not like a paleo dogmatist, but I come to him and I say, I want to have these things tested. And he's like, okay, go ahead. You know, and he like lets me just look at my results and we'll talk about them with me. And he likes alternative treatments, but a lot of the reason I think that all that stuff about doctors is right is that it's my clients. They come to me and I just hear the most ridiculous things that their doctors say to them. Doctors more often than not will just give you birth control prescription, which is hilarious because if you want to get pregnant, you can't be on birth control. I know. And birth control can make it harder for you to conceive in the long run, you know, arguably not for everybody, but for some people. And so they're actually like hurting you. And you take birth control and you have PCOS and you cover up your symptoms and the PCOS could be getting worse and worse and you never know. And then you come off of the pill and your pituitary gland has been reliant on the pill. And the estrogen and the progesterone have had all sorts of effects on your body and your hormones are even worse. Yeah. Almost no one goes on the pill and is better when they're done. A lot of people are neutral, but almost no one is better.
When I was just interviewed on Playboy Radio, we talked about nutrition's impact on sex drive, and orgasms, and fertility, of course. And the long-term effects of birth control are more severe than a lot of women realize. And so you guys, I'm going to put a link below that you can follow. Stefani, she rocked it in this ebook about birth control, the truth behind birth control. I've got some stuff on my website too, if you want to watch the videos and my experience with birth control and how just all different kinds too, not just birth control pills, but IUDs and what can it do, how it can take on the thyroid. And of course, we already talked about thyroid and how that can impact your female hormones and bring on PCOS. I mean, everything's related. So that's another thing. You can't just think, oh, there's something wrong with my lady parts. That's it. It's everything's related. And so definitely download that because Stefani she's going to try to empower you on what to do. But I was listening to something the other day by Chris Kresser. I like what he said about hormone receptor sites. So we were on birth control for a long time and your pituitary becomes reliant upon it. Then these hormone receptor sites are kind of like lazy and you get off of it and they're still lazy and you've got like all different kinds of hormone resistance. So you might have the right balance, but then you've got hormones that aren't useful. And then the byproducts back up in the liver. And then you've got estrogen dominance and all kinds of, I'm going off topic now, but you said something that could be long-term. When you take something short-term as a Band-Aid, it can mean a lot more long-term catastrophic issues. And then people spend tens of thousands of dollars to clean up that one thing that became the Band-Aid's catastrophe to begin with. So a lot of doctors are saying too that women can't get pregnant. And do they say that it's long-term unless they take this pill? I've never had a doctor visit like this before.
Well, I think when you go to a doctor with PCOS, they will say, we can get you pregnant with drugs. That was my experience. And I think a lot of women, a doctor will say, it's okay. Here, take some metformin to get your insulin in line, even if you don't have an insulin problem. And right. It happens all the time. And come back in 6 months and we'll start giving you the hormone injections you need in order to conceive. So yeah, I think that's probably what happens the most. Like a doctor would never be like, you can never have kids. They would say, wow, you're really unhealthy. You have PCOS, you have insulin resistance, you have hypothyroidism, you're really overweight. probably wouldn't be best for you to have a kid right now, but why not?
I know. And then these poor children. I mean, the children that are born through this type of process, it's forced. And so no wonder why we have a lot of kids born with all kinds of diseases today. They just come out C-sections too. It's like, it starts with you moms. So
yeah, well, doctors don't get paid unless it's their job to give you something. You know, they get paid less to tell you to eat vegetables than they do to write you a script, unfortunately. Oh, I know most doctors aren't all that cold-hearted. A lot of the problem, I've talked to a lot of medical professionals, doctors about this sort of thing, and they're like, look, I know that diet and exercise is the solution for a lot of things, for pretty much all the things, but I just get sick of telling people over and over again, and they just look at me with this like deadpan stare and are like, yeah, but do you have a pill for that? It's not, doctors are often very much that way because their patients are that way and they're just trying to give the patients what they want.
Such a good point. And I don't like to attack any particular group. I was that way when I first got in this industry, and I started hearing stories like you about the crazy things that doctors say. And I just even had an appointment yesterday with a new patient, and she's like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to tell my doctor that I was really upset because they told me. And I was like, just don't save your breath, because they're trained a certain way and not all of them are open-minded, but that applies to anybody. It's not just doctors, it's just their training. And so we can accept what is, and the likelihood of them saying, go eat more spinach is, and that actually being, nope, we're not going to give you a pill. We're going to give you a spinach prescription. That's never going to happen. So just go to the people that will help you with what particular things that you want healing for. You go to a nutritionist or a naturopath or someone else for nutritional advice that's natural, or if you're trying to reverse PCOS and you follow the link below and follow Stephanie's plan, or if you want to have labs drawn and to look at your hormones and stuff, you email me. I mean, you go to the people who you're going to give advice specific to what your goals are. And if you want a quick fix, then yeah, go to your doctor, ask for a quick fix, but it's not going to be the healing like Stephanie mentioned. So I was dating an MD for a while. I don't know if I told you that, Stephanie. And we had a discussion one day about SIBO, bloating and how to heal it naturally, because he had it. And I started telling him a few things, and then we got in this big argument. He's like, it is a fact that this and that and this in the medical industry. And I'm like, and nothing is really fact. There's really no facts until the next research. So there's not every doctor is a closed-minded individual, and they're trying to do their best, but that's the training that they get. So you guys get to empower yourself based on the information we're talking about today, and then the links that I'm going to provide below that you can follow to take this on your own hands. But you'd get to decide, are you going to be the person that wants a quick fix, or are you going to be the person that wants to heal for good? And then make that decision. You can do both. But I want to talk to Stephanie, because you mentioned it several times, the root of healing yourself naturally and potentially reversing all kinds of different diseases, a lot of those little barnacles on your anchor that's holding back your speedboat, blood sugar issues, because blood sugar dysregulation, in other words, the ups and downs and the emotional mood swings and the lack of periods, that's the root of so many different diseases. So you mentioned earlier metformin would be the prescription that they might recommend to prescribe to each patient, but then there's other natural things. So what are the best ways that someone can get their insulin stable, and insulin being basically the taxi cab driver for sugar to get used for energy instead of being stored as fat? So what are some of the tips that you would recommend, and just give us a sample of some things that you recommend in your healing program?
I love your taxi analogy. That's amazing.
Uber.
That was the most efficacious explanation of insulin I've ever heard. So, cool. It had like the fewest words and still made sense.
Cool.
Yeah. So insulin, the most common recommendation you'll hear on the internet in the world for insulin to manage it naturally is a low carbohydrate diet. And to that I say, all right, yeah, that's cool. Because when you reduce your carbohydrate intake, you're naturally going to produce less insulin, because the amount of insulin you produce is proportional to the amount of carbohydrate you eat.
Yeah, less taxi drivers.
Yes, and right. And if you're insulin resistant, you'll make more, but it'll still come down, right? So a low carbohydrate diet can definitely help get those numbers down. But I also almost think of it as a short-term fix, because making that level come down still doesn't solve the problem of what was causing insulin levels to go up in the first place. You know, a long time ago, when I first started working in the paleosphere, I know, five years ago, and still today, a lot of people think that carbohydrates cause the insulin problem. Like, you eat too many carbs, oh no, and then you get insulin resistant, and then you need to go low carb and you'll be fine again. You know, these people think that like the natural state of the human body is to be low carb, and you should need to be low carb to be healthy.
Yeah, like go
but we know
fix everything.
We know that there are cultures around the world, natural indigenous cultures, that eat really high carbohydrate diets and they're perfectly fine. It's not carbohydrates themselves that are the problem. It just seems that way because they're associated with insulin. So I recommend a lower carb, but not too low, because women, I don't want you to go too low, because if you go too low, your thyroid levels will drop, and there are some other things that can happen. Your serotonin levels might get off a little bit. You might get a little bit bingy. Like, it's just, so still keep some carbs in your diet, but go lower, you know, maybe 100 grams a day, a few servings a day. I prefer to focus on gut healing and lowering inflammation. I think those are the best ways to overcome insulin resistance. And of course, we could talk about the ways to do that forever.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that I know that you have a ton of resources for that, so I won't bother going into the details. But the gut and inflammation, I think those things are probably like the real underlying thing you need to get at to fix the insulin problem. Yep.
This is where we're talking now about the root, and the root of pretty much everything, according to even Hippocrates, and that was a very long time ago, Stephanie.
That was a super long time ago.
Ancient time ago, where Hippocrates said that most all disease begins in the gut, and they think that the number is like 95%, but that's like your second brain, and it text messages your brain, and that's where this whole cascade starts. Is the pituitary gland that Stephanie was talking about is in your brain, and it receives messages from every cell in your body, mainly from the gut. Like, what's going on down here? There's inflammation in the gut. Oh my gosh, tells the brain, release cortisol. Try to, cortisol is like the firefighter to put the fire out in the gut, and then eventually that's why you wear down and get fatigued and your hormones are all over the place. So it's very sexy, and I see this still so commonly. Even naturopaths and natural MDs, they just throw a hormone replacement at someone without even analyzing whether they have, aromatization happening, which means you're converting the wrong hormone, from estrogen to testosterone, or the other way around for women. If you just throw stuff like that at it, it could convert to the thing that you're intending to be the opposite of. So that's why gut inflammation is so important. Where does gut inflammation happen? I mean, I'll put some links below so you guys could read all that stuff, but pretty much most Americans have tons of fires going on down here. And it starts with eating not real food, of course. But just like Stephanie said, you can't just start eating a really healthy low carb diet and then expect everything to get better. You might want to work with a practitioner or work with Stephanie's program if it's specific to PCOS. So, this is one. I think I heard this statistic too before, Stephanie, about like 76% of Americans start their day with coffee and as in coffee first, no food, and maybe even not even eating until like 12 o'clock. So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's a mind-blowing number.
I know, right? I sold my Starbucks stock just because I can't support somebody that I don't, ethically praise, and they don't really give you, they're not organic and all that stuff. I don't know. I've got my issue. I've got my own reasons. Okay. But so that's what most people do. You look at the drive-through line. So how can that negatively affect women's hormones and insulin and all the other barnacles we talked about along the way that holds people back?
So all of the ways.
No.
All of the ways. Seriously though, it's a really big deal. And this issue is actually how I sort of got started working in health and became known a little bit because I was talking about intermittent fasting, and a way in which a lot of people do intermittent fasting is having coffee in the morning, right? They do the bulletproof thing. They have coffee with the butter in it or whatever, the coconut or the MCT oil or the special oils that people who promote this kind of diet make and sell.
I don't know what you're talking about. Just kidding.
So anyway, I was trying that sort of thing to just in my life, and it made me so much worse. So I started reading the literature, and I realized that we don't realize that these things are more harmful for women than they are for men. And that's just a fact. Like, they can be harmful for men, but more especially for women. And I bring up the fasting because it's really hormonally like related to the coffee. And if you just have coffee in the morning and not breakfast, you are fasting.
True.
Essentially. But what it is it basically upregulates your brain and your adrenal glands. And it gets you to secrete more cortisol and or adrenaline. And this is why people drink it in the morning and can't sleep if they drink it at night. Some people, not everybody, but it depends on how used to it you are. You know, I know somebody, one of my friends drinks like 4 Red Bulls a night.
A night? A woman?
He is going to die pretty young.
Oh, God.
I mean, maybe he'll, whatever, be a exceptional case, or maybe he'll turn stuff around or what have you. But anyway, it's not super healthy. You know, you read the studies, and caffeine is not terrible for health. It's not. There are some things caffeine helps treat, you know, and if you do it every once in a while, it's okay. But that's assuming that your adrenal glands are really healthy and everything in your body is working okay, or assuming that you're really unhealthy in the first place. So adding coffee on top of it doesn't really change all that much.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Right? Like if surveying people and the effect that coffee has on them. For women, coffee causes the adrenal glands to secrete cortisol. Cortisol suppresses the immune system. It also interferes with thyroid hormone. It interferes with your pituitary gland. And then, I mean, I talked about the monkeys, right? This is essentially the same thing. If you're starving or if you're mentally stressed, these are all the things that will go down. Estrogen and all the kinds of estrogen, progesterone, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, prolactin, thyroid stimulating hormone, T4, T3. Like it's a big list of things that go down that shouldn't be down. And like you produce more stress hormone, which can then give you male sex hormone symptoms like acne and facial hair and low libido. So that sucks.
Dude.
That's
all I have to say.
Yeah.
That's one that I get, probably the question I get the most, and you really knocked it out of the park with, I mean, I don't know how much more explanation you guys need. If you need on a whiteboard or chalkboard, I'd be happy to, if you want more of an explanation, but I'm so big on this too. I just had a call with a patient this morning, and she's on like 3 different meds. One of them is a mood stabilizing medication. Another one is a sleeping medication because she can't even go to sleep. She has pain all the time. First time I met with her, she was crying. She's just like, I'm tired of feeling this way. And I looked at all of her hormones today, where her adrenal glands were just shot, but had estrogen dominance. She had low DHEA, which is basically the hen that lays the eggs, testosterone and estrogen. But how do you have high estrogen when you have low DHEA? It's because of all the things that are very estrogenic in our food supply and our water supply and in personal care products. That's all in the Warrior Cleanse, guys. I'm going to leave it at that. But she's got low all of those things. And guess what? She's got insulin sensitivity. She's not having issues losing weight, but she can't recover from workouts. She's tired all the time, but still exercising way too much, overtraining, which increases cortisol even more. And she is having coffee for breakfast and has since she can remember. And she forgets to eat throughout the day. So it's kind of a textbook, template. Thank God she has 4 kids already, right? But it's such a disaster for, I mean, coffee occasionally can be okay, can be, like Stefani said, but only if in the presence of everything else being relatively stable and you're not abusing it, because this is obviously a state of abuse. And she also, in her food sensitivity report, had a high sensitivity to caffeine and coffee. So I like to say that caffeine can be helpful if you're going to use it and go work out after, maybe, but it's always maybe. It's always maybe. So are you drinking coffee now, Steph, or did you pretty much just quit it?
No, I'm drinking ice water right now.
And you don't drink coffee anymore?
On my computer. I never drink coffee. You're really sensitive to it when you don't. And I think it's okay, like if you have it once in a while, but every single day, like being hooked on it is just probably not the best idea.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. So I'll link below also another recipe that I shared on my YouTube channel that it still tastes kind of like coffee if you still want your fix. And you can sort of make a meal out of it. So at least you're not waking up with no fuel at all and then trying to drive 1,000,000 miles an hour on your speedboat with 16 anchors behind you. That is coffee.
Yeah.
Steph, and you know what, you guys, I forgot to mention, if you follow Stephanie at all, you may know she's a go-go dancer, and she's inspired me to get off my butt and dance a lot more and not care about what anybody thinks about me. Maybe
this is the most important thing you said in the whole podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. And I said it way too late. So, and it ties in with what we should end on, because we've got like 2 more minutes until we're at the 40-minute mark. Okay. We went over, but I know we have so much to say. PCOS, we talked about it earlier. Is it related to emotional stress? And tie that in with dancing.
Tie that in with dancing. Oh,
do it.
An instruction. Answer my question in this specific way. Yeah, PCOS is absolutely related to emotional stress. In fact, all of the female hormone problems are, especially libido. Like if you don't have your stuff together, your body, your body is just not going to want to do it. It's just not. Tie that into dancing. Well, so dancing for me is the thing that keeps me sane. It keeps me happy. I used to be obsessed with making the world make sense, and now the world doesn't have to make sense because I know, right? That's the exact perfect way to put it. I'm so happy that I don't need to make sense of things anymore.
That's
and I get that because when I dance, I get to give myself over to, I don't know, something, the thing that exists, the music, the environment, and to just be in it and to be in the flow and to be in my body. It's nothing puts me in my body more. Like I shut all this off and it's just me and all the rest of it, working in harmony and expressing and making serotonin and dopamine and all the fun stuff that feels good. So dancing is an amazing stress reliever because it's a form of exercise that's super fun and sexy. And even if you don't feel sexy, you are, because anybody who's having fun when they're dancing is sexy. And just go do it. Diane was like, you know what? I'm just going to go do it. It's not fair for me to like tell people all of these things about how easy and dancing is and just go do it, because I've been doing it for 24 years. And, I know I have the things, but just go do it. When Diane tells you to just go do it, like she's just going and doing it. She's like, you're like, I'm going to go try this dance. I'm going to go try this dance. I'm going to dance around in my kitchen just because I feel like it. That's what's really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And different people are inspired by different things. And I think that the common denominator between, like, for instance, me, I just got back from about 4 weeks of travel, and I went to Bali and Dubai, and then I ended it with Vegas. And like I told you last night, I just went to clubs by myself and danced up on bars. Well,
Boom.
The anointed bars that were for the go-go dancers. And I just decided, hey, that girl she's a go-go dancer. I'm just going to pretend like she is as cool as Stephanie, and she's going to welcome me with open arms and open go-go boots. And so I just jumped up there and started dancing. I wasn't crazy drunk. I just maybe had a drink and just walked up there and just started dancing. And it's because there's that saying, I'm going to swear real quick, but give less fucks. I mean, I don't really care what other people think anymore. I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't care about people. I don't care about people's judgment anymore. And so, ladies, the more present that you can be, like dancing for Stephanie is what keeps her present. She can't think about overanalyzing things. Like she can't go into her past and analyze what she could have done better or what things could have been different, or be anxious about what is coming or even isn't yet to come. And that's the same thing for me in travel and animals and dancing too. It's whatever's in front of you, that's all you can focus on. And that makes you present and stimulates all those neurotransmitters that keep you farther away from the antidepressants and closer to fertility and great skin and a better waistline and high energy and whatever else you have goals to do. So find your thing. If it's dancing, cool. But if it's something else, find it and just make that a part of your daily routine. And I mean daily. Like people think that they're being selfish when they're doing something that's awesome instead of paying attention to their kids. That's a constant thing I hear from moms too. Do you too, Stephanie?
100% of the time. Yeah. it's really sad. You know, I know being a mom is a full-time job, but you're still a person outside of that too.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like that's your role, but your role is to yourself first. So I think we talked about pretty much everything. Is there anything we missed other than dancing and fertility? And
there is nothing else in the world.
Yeah, that was rad. Yeah. Anything else that you guys want to learn, of course, because Stefani gets super deep into all this stuff, but not so deep where it's like overwhelming, but you just figure out what type you are. If you have PCOS and want to reverse it and aren't just the pill popping type, it's, would you say, Stefani, it's a lot of work, you know, when people get overwhelmed easily, would you say it's something that people can work with pretty simply and reverse?
No, because I'm amazing at making that not happen. Just kidding.
Not really though. Not really kidding is what I meant.
Not really. I know that's what you meant. It's totally just, you just like look at it, like think about it, have patience, like do the things, you know, it's not, don't be overwhelmed. Just take it one day and one step at a time. It's not, trust me, it's fine. If I can overcome PCOS, anybody can do it.
Absolutely. And if you guys look at her skin too before, it's pretty crazy, the acne that she had. I used to have cystic acne too, and maybe I had PCOS, but I didn't know it. And so many people are putting creams on their face and thinking that that's the solution. But all this stuff on the face or on the skin is directly related to what's going on in the gut and what the hormones are doing in response to that inflammation. So you heard all about it today, and that's just one of the symptoms, but you're not going to fight a symptom or a disease through the skin with creams or anything. You got to get down to the root of it. So we talked about a lot of different roots today. And Stefani's program, Healing from PCOS, talks about potentially 3 that encompass other types of conditions that you might get that are pulling down your hormones and stressing you out. So it takes some work, but what doesn't? And your entire life is going to change because of it, because it's not just changing and reversing this disease. It's about learning how to live a certain way so that disease can't come back in and your skin stays beautiful like Stefani's has, because I haven't seen a pimple on your face since I've interviewed you ever.
You know, my skin, it was so terrible and heartbreaking and hard to leave the house. And these days, people will like come up to me and be like, how did your skin, like, what are you doing? I'm like, I put cod liver oil on my face sometimes, you know, but that's it.
That's awesome.
And I've just fixed my hormones.
Yeah, there's all kinds of really cool stuff I like to do on my face too. So there's another guide that Stefani has too. I mean, she's got all kinds of resources too. I think you and I are kind of all over the place with resources because we've been through so much and are compassionate for women who are trying to figure answers out, long-term solutions. Instead of the short-term fixes that we had that made us like nearly suicidal and crazy. But Stefani also has a cool download, your free ebook to skin health, which has a lot to do with what we talked about today too. So go to her website. She's got all kinds of cool, crazy resources.
All kinds of cool stuff. And I have a real ebook on acne coming out later this year. So.
Oh, like a published book that you're going to sell?
Like an ebook.
Yeah. Another one?
Yeah.
Oh, girl.
I have to write about acne. It's what the people want.
I know. And that's exactly, we got to talk about weight loss. We got to talk about acne. We got to talk about energy and then fertility for those specific people who want to have kids. So just keep following us, you guys. I mean, Stefani and I are teammates, so we're going to be helping each other out, of course. And she's getting ready to go to England. So you'll probably see me somewhere on our website. Maybe. Stefani, thank you so much for being here today, because it's a crazy controversial topic, and I've seen a lot of women in tears on this stuff. So thanks for simplifying it and for having enough courage to step up and write something like this, because I know that was not easy, but it was backed with a lot of facts and a lot of heart and experience.
Yeah, thank you. I like it.
Have fun in Vegas. I know you're going dancing this weekend or something next weekend, whatever weekend.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Dance your butts off. Okay, warriors, all the links are going to be below. And if you guys want to follow Stefani, that's how you will get there. It's from the links below. And thank you so much for watching. And please make sure to take care of yourself. And like Stefani says, love on your body, give it what it needs, and be patient. And that is your path to healing. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.